Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Edmonton. Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi and Erin Blanchfield versus Rose Namajunas. Both fights are 5 rounds, and my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. You got former champs Brandon Moreno and Rose Namajunas taking on the next gen of their divisions, of the flyweight division to be exact, and Albazi and Blanchfield. We're going to see if they can gatekeep their spots or if the new emerging talents are going to make title runs. So without further ado, my friends, let's get down to business. And real quick, on my Twitter, I did a little contest. I said, if you can guess what sports jersey I'm going to wear, you don't have to name the player, just the team, I will send you a piece of autographed memorabilia from my collection. Well, I'm wearing Ottawa Senators. I mean, it's the only like Canadian hockey gear I have. So I know it has nothing to do with Edmonton, but no one guessed it. People were guessing like the Atlanta Thrashers, which I respect that guess a lot, but no one guessed the Senators. So I'm gonna have to do another contest and get y'all hooked up with some gear then. But let's get down to business, my friends, because main event of the evening. In the flyweight division, 5-round fight, we got the former 2-time flyweight champion, Brandon Moreno. He's 21-8 in 2, taking on Amir Albazi, who's 17-1. Currently, they got it. Brandon Moreno minus 175. The comeback on Amir Albazi is plus 150. So incredible fight, especially considering where both of them are at in their respective careers. Not just the fact that they're meeting each other in a 5-round main event with all these stakes on the line, but what both these guys went through recently. I mean, it might be narrative, it might be speculative, but this is something I have to talk about. I have to talk about how Amir Albazi is coming off a neck surgery. I mean, he literally stated that doctors told him, if you get punched in the head one more time, you're going to get paralyzed. You need surgery ASAP. So he gets the neck surgery, and word on the street was Albazi made a way quicker recovery than expected. And now everyone's saying that they can't even tell that he had an injury. It looks like Amir Albazi 2.0. So I'm really happy to hear that, he got that taken care of, because you don't want to see anyone, let alone a guy that young, that talented, go through some stuff like that. So I'm glad for Albazi's sake that that's in the rear view now. And then for Moreno, he's kind of at a different point in his career. He's kind of at a crossroads. And the reason being is this: he's not only won the belt once, he's won the belt twice. Like, we talk about it often. When you climb the top of the mountain, there's nowhere to go but down. And I was actually talking to a teammate about this in the locker room today. And my teammate was like, well, you can always reach new heights. And I said, that's a very good point. Well, Moreno did reach new heights. He won the belt a second time. And now it's like, once you win the belt once, let alone twice, you get dethroned. Then, like I said, once you reach the top of the mountain, there's nowhere to go but down. And Moreno even said, like, hey, man, I'm burnt out. I need to take a long ass break. And I mean, it hasn't been that long. He has, taken a good, over 6 months off, a nice little 8-month break. But I thought he was going to take longer than that. But more importantly than all that, what matters here in terms of Moreno, because I don't need to break this fight down technically. You guys have watched these guys fight for long enough. You know where they're good at technically, and tons of other people can break it down technically. For a fight like this, I need to break it down psychologically. I need to break it down in terms of where they're at in their respective careers, because a couple of years ago, I mean, I think if this was in 2021, 2022, I think that Moreno would be a bigger favorite here, and rightfully so. However, Albazi is catching him at a great time. Like I said, when you've already won the belt twice, you've been dethroned twice, like, now's when you're going to start losing the guys that you would have previously beat. Point in case, that Brandon Royval fight. Yeah, now it's easy to say, oh, but the first fight was a fluke injury. I mean, I think that Brandon Moreno was on his way to winning that first fight. And then in the second fight, it didn't even look like a shell of the Brandon Moreno that we know and love. Like, he clearly, visibly, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still very, very good. Like, I'm not saying he's gonna come out here start losing like Malcolm Gordon or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you're a former two-time champion, you're still in the top 5 of that division. Now these young, hungry kids coming up are going to take your spot. Look at Izzy. Look at Izzy, right? Another example of a two-time champion. And then Sean Strickland, of all people, doesn't just beat him, dominates him. And then he gets a fight with Drickus coming off that domination against Strickland because, when your name is Israel Adesanya, when your name is Brandon Moreno, you've already paid your dues in the past. You can just fight in big fights now. And you saw it wasn't the same Israel Adesanya those last 2 fights. And I don't expect it to be the same Brandon Moreno from here on out. Again, of course I still think he can win UFC fights. Yes, that's not the point we're making here. The point we're making here is that now he's fighting these top 3, top 5 super hungry young kids who aren't going to give him an inch. And the thing about this guy, Albazi, firstly, if you go all the way back to when he lost the only fight he's lost against Jose Shorty Torres on his regional scene. And firstly, did that fight by chance go 5 rounds? I know he lost a decision, but was that a 5-rounder? Let me pull that up real quick. Of course, Tapology wants to not pull it up. All right, here we go. So when he fought Jose Shorty Torres, no, it was a 3-round decision back in 2019. I remember that fight back in the day. But like, when you compare that Jose Shorty Torres fight for Amir Albazi and you compare him to his current form, I mean, it's like he looked like a kid in the Torres fight. He looks like a grown-ass man now. He's put on size the right way. He's doing, the right strength and conditioning programs. He's getting his sunlight. He's eating his fruits and vegetables, if you catch my drift. So, like, I think that Albazi right now is in prime form to – I'm not saying he's going to go win a belt or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if he challenged for a belt. I wouldn't be surprised if he moved up the rankings and kept doing so. And people are going to talk about how, but the Kai Kara-France fight was the worst robbery you've ever seen. Again, guys, I'm not here to say who I thought won or who I thought lost. That doesn't matter. What matters to me is that was a very competitive tooth and nail fight, regardless of who you scored it for. And when we're talking about plus 150 right now for Albazi, go win a controversial split decision, kid. Like, I don't care at plus 150 odds. Like, when you're telling me that Brandon Moreno is minus 175, well, that implies that this is Brandon Moreno in his prime, and he's just going to come out here and do Brandon Moreno things to Amir Albazi. Be scrappy, get some back takes, have a little bit more volume with your hands. I said I wasn't going to break it down technically. Here I am doing so. But the thing is, I expect Brandon Moreno to just be a tad bit slower than what he used to be. Kind of just like in those last 2 fights against Pantoja and Royval. I get it, champ, #1 contender, but I think that Pantoja fight was very deflating for Moreno because you've already lost to this guy twice, but now you're fighting him. You're defending your belt against this guy, and it happened again, man. And it didn't just happen like it was nothing. He got dropped in that fight. He got his back taken. It was like, yo, you just don't have this guy's number, and where do you go from there, man? Like, man, I've lost to the champ 3 times already. I'm already a 2-time champ. Like, where else is there to go for me? So, credit to Moreno, like, for being the kind of guy he is, to keep resetting his goals and all that, coming back, so you got to love a guy like that. But again, this is the Half the Battle podcast where we give our picks and we're completely honest about where we think fighters are, where we're not just here to kiss anyone's ass or talk about how much, I also think Brandon Moreno is a future Hall of Famer, future this, future that. We love Brandon Moreno. That's not the debate here. The debate here is, does he still have it in terms of being a top 3 guy? And that's where I got questions. And Albazi, I think that he's the kind of guy that, again, you don't want to give someone like Albazi an inch. You give him that easy takedown, he's going to take it. You expose your chin. Ask Alessandro Costa how that went, man. Also, in that Kai Kara-France fight, one thing I will say about that, there was only one guy that was closest to finishing that fight, and that was Amir Albazi. Now, I do concede that towards the end of that fight, it definitely looked like Kai was starting to take over. But these are the kind of experiences that I want to see a young kid like Albazi go through, man. Like, if you pull up Kai Kara-France versus Brandon Moreno, all everybody remembers is that Brandon Moreno liver kicked the guy. But up until then, it was like a 50-50 fight. Go look at the judges' scorecards, man. I'm telling you, it was either, I think one judge had it 2-0 Moreno, one judge had it 1-1. I forgot what the other judge had. Did the other judge have a 2-0 Kai, like, or were two of them 1-1 and then one was 2-0 Moreno? Either way, it was a close ass competitive fight until the liver kick. All I'm trying to say here is that I'm not exactly sure how this fight's going to go down, but what I think before the fact is that it's going to be a close, competitive type fight. We're in Canada here, so you know there's no bias towards Moreno. There's no bias towards Albazi. And with these judges, unless Moreno is going to make this definitive and decisive, which I can't confidently say he does, I think it's going to be a close fight that could probably go either way. So before the fact, I'm going to take Amir Albazi to come out here and upset the great Brandon Moreno and enter the conversation, with the Royvals, with the Pantojas, and with all those guys. So, yeah, I expect a very close tooth and nail back and forth fight. And in situations like that, I go with the plus 150 dog. So all respect to Brandon Moreno. I remember when I saw him fight in Nashville down the street from me in Atlanta, where he head kicked Dustin Ortiz. Did he follow him up with a rear naked choke, or did he just head kick him and knock him out? I don't remember, but I remember I bet on him there and he fucked up Dustin Ortiz. And yeah, I have a long history betting on and against Moreno. And usually when I bet against him at dog odds, it cashes. Pantoja, Sergio Pettis in Mexico back in the day, for those that remember. And this Saturday night, live at the Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, I think I'm taking a 1-unit shot on Amir Albazi to come out here and upset Brandon Moreno. Co-main event in the evening in the flyweight division. We got the former strawweight champ, the former two-time strawweight champ, Rose Namajunas. She's 13-6. Taking on Erin Cold-Blooded Blanchfield, who is 12-2. Currently, they got it. Erin Blanchfield minus 130. The comeback on Rose is plus 110. I have seen some, some minus 125s, some minus 124s as well. Interesting fight. Listen, I think that this line is a big example of recency bias. Let me explain what I mean. Y'all remember, well, not all y'all remember, but, if you've been listening to Half the Battle, at least this year, you know that I went big on Manon Fiorot at plus 170 odds against Erin Blanchfield. If I remember correctly, I think I might have even put 3 units on that. Because I thought that Manon Fiorot was way too physical for her and could stuff the takedowns. And then standing, she's at a massive, massive advantage. And I also bet on Manon against Rose Namajunas as well. But the difference being that Manon was like minus 190 against Rose, and she was like plus 170 against Erin Blanchfield. But man, I think that Erin Blanchfield showed a lot in that fight. People say she got exposed and this and that. Yeah, like the only thing that got exposed is that Manon Fiorot has way better stand-up than Erin Blanchfield, and I feel like we knew that going in. Just because Manon Fiorot is more physical and she can keep Erin Blanchfield off her does not mean that Rose Namajunas is going to be able to keep this girl off her. Like, for example, let's pull up stats right now. Let's see what stats say about both those girls' takedown defense. I'm talking about Rose and I'm talking about Manon Fiorot. Exactly. The stats back me up like crazy. Manon Fiorot's takedown defense is 93%. Rose Namajunas' takedown defense is less than 60%. So just to come out here and say stuff like, well, Manon stuffed all her takedowns, therefore Rose will. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Rose and Manon, two completely different fights. Rose is a former strawweight. Manon's gonna end her career at bantamweight. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't use examples like that, like to make your Rose case. I guess if you want to make the case for Rose, I'll concede that Rose obviously has faster hands than Erin. Who does Rose not have faster hands than? Rose is an extremely talented fighter. Everybody knows this. But everybody also knows the way to beat Rose is to put the pressure on her nonstop. Don't have a staring contest with. Don't get me wrong. There's no guarantee she wins staring contest either. Look at that second Esparza fight. But I'm just saying, the way to beat Rose is to put that pressure on her, and that's exactly what Erin Blanchfield does. Look, are there going to be some exchanges where Erin's, probably getting her head popped back a bit? Sure. Yes. But does that mean the fight's over? And does that mean that Rose can do that for 5 straight rounds or for 3 of the 5 rounds? I am not convinced at all. Honestly, I think that had the Manon Fiorot fight never happened, that Erin would be at least minus 200 here. So I personally think everybody's talking about how she got exposed and this and that. Like I said, just because you're not a better striker and you're not more physical than Manon Fiorot, that doesn't mean that those kind of things are going to happen against other people. That doesn't mean that you got exposed. That just means Manon Fiorot is a terrible matchup for you. And I'm not convinced Rose Namajunas is a terrible matchup for, especially if Erin can get these takedowns going. If Erin gets on top of this girl, one difference between Erin and like, Tracy Cortez and Amanda Hibosh, no disrespect to them. I know on the regional scene, Tracy actually got a controversial win over Blanchfield, but one big difference is that like when Tracy gets on top, she like lays in praise. Amanda Ribas is like a judo thrower, armbar type chick, whereas like Erin Blanchfield gets on top of you. I mean, she might carve your face up. She takes your back. She might strangle you. Ask Jessica Andrade about that. Someone who has had 50-50 fights with Rose Namajunas. So I'm just saying, and not again, MMA math doesn't mean shit, but I'm saying Rose comes from that last era. Erin's representing that upcoming era. And I truly do think that, yeah, okay, maybe there's going to be some sketchy stand-up exchanges. I can accept that. But at some point, Erin's going to get this to the mat. And with certain fights, like I said, with Tracy Cortez, when she takes you down, I mean, that doesn't mean that the fight might be over shortly after. That just means that it might take you a little bit to get back up to your feet. Whereas if Erin takes you down and Erin passes guard, if Erin gets on top and mount and gets your back, even top half guard, I think she can start setting up straight arm bars, Americanas. She can pass. Like, I think Erin's a different animal on the ground. I'm sure she's super hungry after that last fight against Manon to prove a point. And if this fight comes down to a battle of wills, personally, I don't think it will come down to a battle of wills. I think it's going to come down to a battle of skills on the mat. But let's say it does come back to let's say it all comes down to a battle of wills. It's 2-2 going into that 5th round, and someone's got to make that decision to bite down on that mouthpiece. You know who I'm picking in that spot. I'm picking Erin Blanchfield to bite down, get that final takedown, and win that 3-2. But that's worst case scenario. I think Erin Blanchfield is going to come out here and take her down to either ground and pound TKO or submit Rose Namajunas. So yeah, I'm going Erin Blanchfield to get back on track, regain her hype, and people are going to be looking at her in the same light as they did prior to the Manon fight. Again, guys, Manon was just a terrible matchup for her. Period, point blank. But now, like I said, people are acting like just because Manon did that, now everybody else is going to do that. Fake news. So I'm going Erin Blanchfield here to make a statement. Now, featured bout in the heavyweight division, we got the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. He's 28-12, taking on Jhonata Diniz, who's 8-0. And currently, they got it. Jhonata Diniz minus 170. The comeback on Derrick Lewis is plus 145. This is a tough one because it's like Derrick Lewis has seen things that Diniz can only dream of. Not granted, Diniz fought some real dudes in kickboxing. Then I heard he might have went to a decision with Rico Verhoeven back in the day. Like, hey, props. Like, we hear about all these dudes who like beat Alex Pereira on the regionals. I mean, on the Glory kickboxing scene. Now they're getting signed. And this dude, he fought. I haven't seen the fight, so I can't say it was competitive, but he didn't die against Rico Verhoeven, which is pretty cool. But like in MMA, this is a completely different sport. And the thing about Lewis, he's not just got the most knockouts in heavyweight history, he's got the most knockouts in UFC history. This is the single most dangerous knockout artist we've ever seen. And like to a point where like even Francis didn't want to engage with this guy. When you have a guy like Francis Ngannou gun shy, I mean, that speaks volumes to what kind of power you have. He's got to win over Francis. He knocked out Volkov. He knocked out Curtis Blades. He's knocked out tons of these guys along the way, man. And still at 39 years old, well, granted, it is heavyweight, so they kind of, they don't fizzle out as much in their late 30s as other weight classes do. But like, he's won 2 of his last 3 via brutal knockout. So like the Black Beast, like right when you start to count him out, he proves that he still got it. Maybe he can't compete against the upper echelon guys anymore. I say that he's got wins over a bunch of them, but like, these emerging guys, the Pavloviches and whatnot. But the thing with Jhonata Diniz, so he does have good kickboxing. I think if we're just talking about technical kickboxing for technical kickboxing, I think that Diniz is better. Like, I think that he's gonna get his leg kicks going. He's fights behind his jab. Like, everything's just more classic, traditional, technical kickboxing. Whereas Black Beast explodes into things. He's more athletic than people think. He throws like jump flying kicks and flying knees. And man, I watched that fight against Rodrigo Nascimento. I watched it the other day. I know he had to go through some shit. That's what tends to happen in Black Beast fights. They take him down. He's on bottom side control. Then he explodes back up to his feet, and then he gets that Black Beast blitz going. I don't think he's going to get taken down here. I don't think Jhonata Diniz has any intentions to take him down. But the thing is, about that Nascimento fight, when Lewis finally landed that straight right on him, it was like a gunshot went off. You saw that wobble. He didn't even have enough time to wobble. He went down so quick. It was like, wow. And people were saying Nascimento quit. Nascimento did not quit. Nascimento got hit with a nuclear missile is what happened, man. That shit would have knocked out a horse. So, yeah, as far as this matchup is concerned, it's just tough. A lot of volatility with heavyweights. In most other weight classes, I'm taking the more experienced guy. But here it's just tough because here it's about who's going to land harder first. Like really, who's going to land harder first? Like, I can see Jhonata chopping him down with leg kicks, getting him super hurt, and then going upstairs with something big and closing the show. And I can also see the typical Black Beast performance. Comes out here, and I don't give a shit what your kickboxing credentials are. Now you're in my world. I'm the knockout king of the UFC. You might have been doing your thing in glory, but welcome to real fighting, my boy. And you might see a Black Beast KO. So this one, I have no idea, brother. Let's see what the coin says. So let's see. Let's give heads to Black Beast because the guy has got the most knockouts in heavyweight history. So, if there's going to be a president's head for one of these fighters, it's got to be the UFC KO King. We'll give tails to Diniz. Wow, and I just fucked that up. Hold on. Look what it says. Hold on, let's get that close. Wait. Going with the Black Beast to hand this kid his first L. Now, next up, in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Caio Machado. He's 8-3-1, taking on Brendson Ribeiro, who's 15-7. Currently, they got it. Caio Machado minus 155. The comeback on Brendson Ribeiro is plus 135. So a bunch of dudes have been dropping from like heavyweight to light heavyweight, and they've just looked terrible. Like last week, that Serhiy guy or whatever, the one that fought Ibo Aslan. Like, all his regionals were in heavyweight. Looked decent. Comes to light heavyweight. Doesn't even throw a punch. Look at like Tanner Bozer. Speaking of Canadians, man, he was like a UFC, kind of a smaller UFC heavyweight. Goes down to light heavyweight. Ion Cutelaba smokes him. Now that's just two fight sample size. So y'all tell me some more examples of heavyweights dropping to light heavyweight. I'm not talking about light heavyweight going up to heavyweight. I'm talking about heavyweight coming down to light heavyweight. Because the examples I can think of, it didn't go well for the guys. But let me say this. So initially I was thinking, oh my God, Caio Machado is favored in a UFC fight. Like, let's look into Brendson Ribeiro. But firstly, why was I talking like that? Why was I saying, oh my God, Caio Machado, this and that? So Caio Machado, I actually think he's got a lot of heart, enthusiasm, and will to win. And like, I think, like I said, enthusiasm. Like, he wants to fight. I like that. I like that a lot about Caio Machado. The issue is, the technique is very it's not exactly something that the way he throws punches is not exactly something you'd show to a boxing coach. It's not exactly something you'd teach in a fundamentals class. The technique ain't the prettiest, that much I'll say, but he's a really large man and he's a tough guy. And then on the other side with Brendson Ribeiro, because like I said, I was like, shit, Caio Machado's a favorite in a UFC fight. I might have to come out here and fade him. And then I watched tape on Brendson. So I do think technique for technique, Brendson Ribeiro is better than Caio Machado. But the issue I have with Brendson is he literally gets hurt in like every single fight, man. Fights he wins, fights he loses. Like, I hadn't watched like all his previous UFC fights. I mean, not UFC fights, all his previous regional fights until recently, right? So I wasn't aware of certain things. Like I'd seen his record and whatnot, and saw he got knocked out in some fights, whatever. But I saw they were against heavy hitters. But when I actually go and watch those fights that he got knocked out in, like, dude, there's so much alarming stuff to talk about with Brendson Ribeiro. Firstly, I love the gym he comes out of. Evolução Thai, they're responsible for Francisco Trinaldo, Bruno Blindado. I know Bruno Silva's going through his shit lately, but like when Bruno was on his game, man, I mean, Buddy's got 20 knockouts on his record. So I'm not talking about Bruno's current form. I'm talking about Bruno back when he was Blindado. Guys like that come out of that gym. So I respect that gym a lot. Master Andre Dida. How can you not respect that guy? Great coach. He's the dude that soccer kicked Chael Sonnen on that tough episode, for those that don't remember. But when I watch Brendson's fights, man, let me pull up the record just so I remember which ones. Okay, yeah. So for example, the fight he had against Marcio Breno, where he got knocked out, man. Like, dude, he actually hurt Marcio Breno. He was doing his thing. Like, it was looking like, damn, like Brendson's about to get this dude out of there. And then something happened, and Brendson ended up on his back. And then Brendson just covers up, dude. Like, he just covers up, and it was like, all right, I'm done fighting. Please let me go home. It wasn't even like a true knockout. It was like a cover up and go home. And then he had another knockout loss. His next fight, I wasn't able to watch that one, but then his very next fight against Gilmar Dutra Lima, like, so he ends up winning, but like, dude, I think he got dropped early in that fight, and he was back in that position off his back where he just starts covering up, and yeah, I don't like the visuals. It's tough because it's like Caio's dropping from heavyweight to 205, and in all of Caio's fights at heavyweight, he weighed in 250, 255, 251, stuff like that. And that was like as recent as this year. So you've dropped goddamn 45 pounds in less than a year. Like, I'm not saying obviously he's gonna look like a new man. That's understood, but like, is your cardio gonna recover from this cut? Like, are you gonna be able to push hard like you did at heavyweight? Because at heavyweight, one thing about Caio, like I said, it might be ugly, it might be, not your traditional like like it's not the benchmark of what you expect technique to be when you watch Caio Machado fight, but he'll push through, fatigue, he'll push through adversity. Whereas Brendson, like, if we're just comparing techniques, I'd rather learn technique from Brendson, but Brendson has no chin. His heart is in question as well, his fight IQ. So it's tough. Like I said, pre-tape, I was like, fuck, I might bet Brendson here. Caio Machado is a favorite in a UFC fight. But when I watch Brendson, like, it's tough to be enthused about a guy that gets hurt every single fight. So I'm gonna go Caio Machado to come out here and win his light heavyweight debut and get that first UFC win. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Marc Andre Barriault. He's 16-8, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, who's 15-6. Currently, they got it Marc Andre minus 205. The comeback on Dustin Stoltzfus is plus 175. What makes this one tough for me is the odds. Obviously, I'm a fan of Barriault. How can you not? He's like a hockey enforcer, gets you in that clinch and just starts, he grabs the back of your head and then he starts uppercutting you. Like, he's a hockey enforcer. I mean, how can you not love power bar, man? I mean, like Andre Barriault, like, he might not be the fastest guy, he might not be the most athletic guy, but he's super tough. He's durable. They call him power bar because as the fight progresses, he starts to get better. So there's a lot to like about him just in terms of being a fan, and he's a Canadian fan favorite. So yeah. And then on the other side with Stoltzfus, man, I think Stoltzfus is a lot better than what he's shown, man. I think Stoltzfus might have a bit of a confidence issue. I mean, I don't know the guy personally. That's just my guess from watching his career, because like, he's had good moments in fights. It's just like he's also had moments where you've seen him wilt in bad spots, where you've seen him kind of check out. I know there's been some knockout losses where he got caught and whatnot, but in what'd y'all think about that Bruno Ferreira fight, man? Did y'all think that he because the Abus fight, yeah, he got knocked down in the Abus fight. There's no question about that. But do you think that spin hurt him so badly he didn't know where he was, or do you think that Bruno started turning it up and Dustin wasn't liking it. Because then you see fights like the Puna Haley fight. My boy Dustin's going out there getting knockdowns, taking his back and choking him out. I even bet on Dustin in the Dwight Grant fight, and he did exactly what he needed to do there. Avoid the power, take this guy down. Like, I think Dustin has a path to victory here. Like, and I do think he probably will get takedowns in this fight. It's just that, are you going to get takedowns? Power bar is going to survive. He's going to work his way back up to the fence, wall walk, get back up, and then we start standing again. Or are you going to take this man's back? Take him down, hold him down, pass, take his back, and possibly choke him out. I can see either scenario happening. I'm going to lean a little bit towards power bar because I think that the longer the fight goes, like I think if this fight goes all three or goes late, that favors power bar. But if I don't watch this fight and you called me up and told me that Dustin Stoltzfus choked him out, would I be surprised? No, I would not, because I do think Dustin's skilled. I just don't think Dustin's very confident in his abilities. Again, I don't know the guy. Maybe that's fake news. But just from what I can tell, little decision making and little like kind of wilting, when it's like 1-1 going to third, and he'll be the one that gives up that third, or he'll be doing good early and then, isn't able to catch that second win. Just little things like that. Whereas Barriault, we know exactly what Barriault is and what Barriault isn't. Barriault's just a tough ass dude. If there's questions about your cardio, if there's questions about your chin, if there's questions about if you truly belong at this level, Barriault's going to expose that. But, obviously he's going to struggle with guys that are higher ranked, that are more athletic, that have more tools at their disposal, that are running on real high confidence. But I'm not convinced Stoltzfus is that guy, but the price sucks. So it's probably dog or pass, but pure pick. I'm going to pick Marc-Andre Barriault. Now, kicking off the main card in the welterweight division, we got Mike Malott. He's 10-2, taking on Trevin Giles, who's 16-6. Currently, they got it. Mike Malott minus 250. The comeback on Trevin Giles is plus 210. So people are saying Mike Malott pulled a stunt in his last fight against Neil Magny. I'm not disagreeing with you. You're right. He did pull a stunt. But we can all agree in the UFC, Mike Malott's only pulled one stunt. Trevin Giles has pulled like 6 or 7 stunts. Okay, so this might have been a one-time thing with Malott. We'll find out down the line if it was or wasn't. But there's no questions that Trevin Giles is a master and has a PhD in self-imploding in fights. He'll be looking amazing in multiple fights and then just gets finished. And people are going to be like, oh, that's recency bias from the Carlos Prates fight. Nah, y'all noobs need to chill out saying shit like that. How about back in 2019 against Zach Cummings? And then the exact same thing happens in 2020. Excuse me, later in 2019, a couple months later in 2019 against Gerald Meerschaert, clearly up 2-0, gets choked out in the third round. The Dricus Duplessis fight. I know Dricus is the champ, so it's easy to be like, oh, but that was the champ. Let's not even talk about it. I mean, he's doing good early, rocks Dricus early, gets knocked out. The Michael Morales fight does good early, gets knocked out. The Gabriel Bonfim fight didn't do good early, just got smoked right away. But the Carlos Prates fight, doing good early and then gets obliterated. So it's like, this ain't some one-time thing. This ain't some two-time thing. There's like a 6 or 7 time thing. Let's count how many time thing this is. I'm not counting the Bonfim fight because he just got smoked there. But I'm talking about how many times has he pulled stunts against Prates, against Morales, against Duplessis, against Meerschaert, against Cummins. I mean, guys, like we're talking about what, 5 times here? 5-time stunt puller in the UFC. But I want to say one thing. These two had a grappling match. And of course, different sport, whatnot. I actually took something from the grappling match, surprisingly. Mike Malott won a unanimous decision. Obviously no punches, kicks, knees, and elbows. You guys are smart. You know that. But what did I take from the grappling match between Mike Malott and Trevin Giles? This is what I took. At first, they were competing. It's kind of close. And then about halfway through, it's like an 8-minute round or something. Halfway through, Mike Malott boot sweeps Trevin Giles, takes his back, and it's like, similar things are going to happen in this fight. I think Trevin Giles is going to compete. I think Trevin Giles might even bust up the face of Mike Malott, give him a bloody nose, break his nose again, mess him up a little bit, and then at some point, he's going to push the self-implode button, and whether it's diving headfirst into a guillotine, whether it's getting dropped and finished, whether it's getting dropped and then getting choked, like whatever the case may be, whether it's doing great and then getting your back taken and getting choked. Listen, there's going to be another time to fade Mike Malott, no questions asked. I mean, would it surprise me if this weekend? Because, like, again, one thing I know about Malott, technically speaking, he's no slouch at all. Okay, but I do have questions about the heart of Malott. That last fight. And I can go ahead and say I don't think Mike Malott's a future top 15 guy, but Trevin Giles isn't either. You know what I'm saying? And, like, again, Trevin Giles just has this ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and he did it in their jiu-jitsu match, and I think he's going to do it in their MMA match too. So I think Mike Malott gets back on track here. Hopefully his next fight, he's a massive favorite against someone that actually does have top 15 potential, and then we can assess the situation from there. But here, yeah, I'm gonna pass at the price, but I'm gonna pick Mike Malott to get an opportunistic finish. So, guys, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Bet105. Check them out at bet105.eu. They're an emerging sports book that offers some of the best odds in the market. They got instant withdrawal, so you don't have to go through some incredibly annoying process to get your money, and they don't limit winners. And I want to say something. So last week, because they sponsored last week's episode of Half the Battle as well, one of the fans commented that they deposited a good amount of money. They loved the layout of the website, and it was super easy to use, but they said they had like a little issue with the live betting. I took a screenshot of exactly what they said. I sent it to my people at Bet105, and guess what their response was? Their response wasn't, go fuck yourself, kid. Their response was, thank you very much for letting me know this. We're going to address this right away. So what that tells me is we're in business with guys that they take things seriously. They're not going to just, do a little hit and run, and they want the ultimate customer experience and customer satisfaction. And not to mention, they don't limit winners. They got some of the best odds and quick, fast, easy, smooth payouts. So the fact that they were willing to listen to me when I sent them that screenshot last week, like, I already like them, but for them to, because I've dealt with other sports books in the past, and they don't give a flying what about you. You're just another number and statistic to them. And I'm not saying that, you're going to be best friends with these guys, but all I will say is they play the game the right way, the honest way, and you're not going to have to go hire a money collector to get paid out. So check them out, bet105.eu. Tell them I sent you. And thanks very much, Bet105, for supporting and sponsoring today's episode of Half the Battle. Featured prelim in the bantamweight division, we got Aiemann Zahabi. He's 11-2, taking on Pedro Munhoz, who's 20-9. Currently, they got it. Aiemann Zahabi -120. The comeback on Pedro Munhoz is +100. Wow, I would have never expected to see odds like this in this matchup at any point in time. I mean, do you guys know the heights that Pedro Munhoz has reached in this sport? Like, y'all know Pedro Munhoz was ranked number 4 in the world at one point when he fought Aljamain Sterling. Go pull up the fight. When it shows the tail of the tape, it shows their rankings. Pedro Munhoz was a top 5 guy at one point. He was number 4 in the world when he fought Aljo, and he had a competitive fight with Aljo too. Since that point, Pedro's now unranked. So what that tells you is that, it's not my opinion that Pedro is on a decline, or that Pedro, is towards, the twilight of his career rather than, the prime. That's not an opinion. It's a fact. You go from number 4 to now you're unranked, and that's what that means. But the thing about it is Zahabi, all respect to the current run he's on. I mean, he's on like a little resurgence too, and you love to see fighters get a second win, especially someone that seems like such a nice guy, interacts with the fans, and like you always root for a good comeback story. And because remember that knockout loss he had against Ricardo Ramos, many thought he'd never come back the same. He came back better. So it's cool to see that, man. But like Zahabi's never reaching the heights that Munhoz reached. Like, Munhoz was a top 5 guy. Zahabi, I'd be shocked if Zahabi was even a top 15 or top 20 guy. Again, no disrespect. Like, I feel like that Basharat fight, that's what, is getting the hype here, because, he was like what wasn't he like a plus 700 dog in that spot or something, like, and now he's minus 120 against, a perennial top 15 guy. Like, even in that Basharat fight, no discrediting what, Aiemann did, like, but I think that was more about Basharat. It was Javid, not Farid. It was Javid. Javid was being super arrogant, man. Like, he was coming off that Victor Henry fight where he was styling on Henry, but then he kicked him in the balls. Henry couldn't continue, and then he started calling Henry a quitter. He was acting super arrogant, and I think he carried that arrogance into the Zahabi fight, and he had a great first round, but Zahabi took that second and third from him, period, point blank. Zahabi started like Zahabi's punches are like weird. They come from weird angles. Or again, we were talking about earlier about who do we say that you don't show their technique to a boxing coach? Oh yeah, Caio Machado. Now I think I think Aimann's probably a little more technically sound than Caio Machado, but I'm just saying like his punches come from weird angles and they're not the prettiest things you've ever seen. But what's interesting about this fight is that he is catching Pedro at a great time. Pedro's 38. Like I said, it's not like Pedro went from like number 10 to number 5 to number 4 and they took him out the rankings. Pedro went from number 4 to number 10 to number 15 to out the rankings, right? So he's catching him at a great time. But let's also not forget that Zahabi's not some young stud prospect. Zahabi's like 36. So this is the finished product of Zahabi. I think historically speaking, Pedro has way too much output and fights at a way higher pace than him. I also think that Zahabi's very heavy on that front leg. Pedro's one of the best calf kickers in the sport. I think Pedro's going to calf kick this man. I think Pedro's going to slug with him. There's the things you got to be worried about. For example, we talked about it last week with the great Max Holloway, just like the great BJ Penn. Never been knocked down, never been knocked out, right? And that was the case until you get knocked down and knocked out. Well, I'm pretty damn sure I know Pedro's never been knocked out, but has Pedro ever been knocked down? Let me look at that. I'm pretty damn sure he hasn't. Yeah, Pedro's never been knocked down. So Pedro's one of these guys right now, 38 years old, never been knocked down, never been knocked out. So when's it gonna finally happen? That's the big question. I don't think it's gonna happen against Zahabi. I mean, Zahabi has floored some people, Arichi Lang, but like again, Arichi Lang, what's he, a top 75 ranked fighter? Again, we're talking about a former top 5 fighter here, Pedro, old or not. Because again, Zahabi ain't 27. Zahabi's 36. Okay. So I just think it's going to be a close split decision type fight. But historically speaking, Pedro fights at a way higher pace than Zahabi. He's a lot more dangerous than Zahabi, more well-rounded, and just better. But with these judges and the potential of this being close, Zahabi's a very big name in Canada. I mean, am I going to be surprised to see a split decision go Zahabi's way? No, I'm not. But I am going to pick who I historically think is the better fighter. And even though his form isn't what it quite used to be, I'm not sold on this, top 15 resurgence type run that people seem to think Zahabi's having. I'm very happy for his success. You love to see it, but I think there's a chance that stops Saturday night. So I'm going to go Pedro Munhoz here. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's 11-3, taking on Ariane Lipski, who's 17-9. Currently, they got it. Jasmine Jasudavicius minus 225. The comeback on Ariane Lipski is plus 190. This one's interesting to me because I felt like Lipski did a lot of maturing her last couple fights. Let me pull up exactly when I thought that started happening. Yeah, in 2023. I think after the Cachoeira fight, I don't know what happened mentally, if she like left that coach and went somewhere else or what happened, but like after that Cachoeira fight, Lipski's turned a corner, man. And that's just the bottom line. Like her last few fights, I've been seeing the maturity I've wanted to see for a while. Let's take it fight by fight. I saw the output I wanted to see in the JJ Aldrich fight, over 100 significant strikes landed, which was a first for Ariane Lipski. Next fight against Gatto, if the big question with Lipski, it was about her heart. And, there's question about her ground game too, but about pushing through in tough situations. Like Gatto is one of those, when it's a dude, we call him a dog. I I mean, I guess you could say Gato got, but then the name Gato in Spanish that translates to cat. But Gato got that dog in her. You know what I'm saying? And like Ariane Lipski dug deep in that fight. Then the next fight against Casey O'Neill, she put a clinic, like a clinic on Casey O'Neill and finished her. And then the Carini Silva fight, although she clearly lost the fight, one thing I really, really liked about it from Ariane's point of view was that in the past, when she's getting taken down, she's immediately getting passed on, giving up full mount, getting pounded out. And this happened multiple occasions against not the best fighters, against Antonina Shevchenko, against De La Rosa, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that Carini wasn't able to really get off much damage on her, I think spoke volumes to the maturity and the improvements of Lipski here. But that being said, we're going to find out this fight if she's really matured mentally, because Jasmine, the striking might not be the prettiest. Nothing about her fighting style is the prettiest, but Jasmine pushes on that gas pedal and she will pace these girls. And if you're not quite ready to compete at the pace that Jasmine likes to fight at, I mean, you're going to be huffing and puffing. You are going to be looking for a way out. And Jasmine is just going to get mean and turn up on you. So this fight is going to let me know right now, has Lipski really turned that corner or not? Listen, guys, at minus 225, I'm not interested in playing Jasmine. With the state of judging and with the fact that Lipski is better than this girl standing. And what if Lipski stuffs here? Now, there is a path if Lipski stuffs for Jasmine. That's, pinning Lipski up against the fence, dirty boxing, getting those elbows in, getting those knees in and whatnot. But I think it just comes down to some tactics and strategy and whatnot. I think Lipski does have a chance in this fight. I'm gonna pick Jasmine to pace her, but if I were to bet this fight, it'd be a dog or pass situation. I need to sit down with this fight a little bit more and determine how I think Lipski's going to handle Jasmine's pace. But I'll let y'all know if I change my pick. But as of right now, Wednesday, October 30th, I'm picking Jasmine Jasudavicius to come out here and pace Ariane Lipski. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Charles Jourdain. He's 15-8, taking on Victor Henry, who's 24-6. Currently, they got it. Charles Jourdain, just depends where you look, minus 135. The comeback on Victor Henry's plus 115. So initially, when this fight got announced, I was like, why is Charles Jourdain dropping a bantamweight? Like, seems like a desperation move. But then I think about it more, and I'm like, it's probably the smartest thing this kid's done in a while. Because think about it. Look at his last two fights, man. He fought Sean Woodson, who's like a 6'4" featherweight, who's going to end his career at lightweight. And then he fought Gian Silva, who missed weight at featherweight and is out here beating guys like Drew Dober at lightweight. So, like, he was massively outsized those last two fights. Hey, kid, now go pick on someone your own size, and he's going to drop 35s. Obviously, I got to see on Friday. Just make sure he had a look, he cut the right way, make sure he looks good on the scales and that he looks like he's ready to go. Hear him talk a little bit because he has the tendency to say some pretty dumb shit. But if it seems like he's locked in, man, it's nice for him that he's finally going to be the bigger guy. It's been a long ass time since he's been the bigger guy. He's usually outsized that featherweight. I know there was that Nathaniel Wood fight, but I just think that was a bad stylistic matchup for him. With Henry, I mean, I got a lot of respect for Henry. When you can go 30 pro fights, you've never been finished once, and this guy's 37 years old, like, hey, bro, you're a badass, Victor Henry. I got a lot of respect for Henry, but Henry can also get off a lot of volume in a lot of fights. Like that Raoni Barcelos fight, even that Hani Yahya fight was really interesting, how much volume he can get off. But I think he's going to struggle here with the movement of Jourdain, with the kicks of Jourdain, and the size of Jourdain. Finally, Charles gets to be the bigger guy here. And with Victor, look, he's looked good, but I also think that last fight with Rani Yahya was very circumstantial. That came down to the opponent. The Javid fight, when I rewatched that, Javid was styling on him. Now, it sucks how it ended, but Javid was styling on him. The Tony Gravely and Assunção fights, the Gravely fight was like a 50-50 type fight. The Assunção fight, I felt like Assunção, who was like close to his 40s, schooled him. So, yeah, I like Victor Henry. I think he's very tough. Again, never been finished in 30 pro fights, has that catch wrestling background with Josh Barnett in them. And it's just like one of those vets that He will pull those tricks out his back pocket, and if you're not ready for him, he will expose that. But Charles Jourdain's been, you know, what's he been doing with it? What's the thing about your teeth? He's been something his teeth in the UFC, he's been cutting his teeth in the UFC for a long ass time at a higher weight class. He even fought at 55 in the UFC against Desmond Green, I'm pretty sure. So is that true? Let me double check. Let me fact check myself on that real quick. So his fight against Des Green, was that really a 55s? It was. I was right. This guy's fought at 55s before in the UFC. Now you're dropping to 35s. I think, hey kid, you're finally gonna get to be the bigger guy here. Like, go have some fun. Go make a statement. Let's get back on track. But let me see these weigh-ins before I'm willing to put money on it. But yeah, I'm gonna go Charles Jourdain to come out here and win his bantamweight debut and get back on track. Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Alexander Romanov. He's 17-3, taking on Rodrigo Nascimento, who's 11-2. Currently, they got it a pick'em with a slight lean on Nascimento. It just really depends where you look, but yeah, let's say minus 115 Nascimento, minus 105 Romanov. I don't know what to think about Romanov, because when he first came into the UFC, it was looking like, man, this is going to be the new guy to give people sky miles, suplexes, the whole bit. He's King Kong, this and that. But man, he's pulled a couple stunts where I don't feel like he's come back looking the same. Obviously the Volkov fight was an all-time stunt, but prior to that, even the Juan Espino fight was the first time where we were like, okay, yeah, maybe his success truly is just front loaded. If he can throw you up and, throw you up in the air and do his whole thing. But after that, where are the layers of his game? What's his plan B? What's his striking like? Yeah, I just don't think there's much depth to his game besides suplexes and stuff. And on the other side with Rodrigo Nascimento, I think he's a pretty well-rounded, new school heavyweight. He's not going to blow you away anywhere, but he's just good everywhere. I guess his biggest weakness is his chin, but I don't really see that being tested against. I mean, does what's his name even throw punches? Let me double check it. How many head strikes this dude Romanov usually throws? Let's pull up that Blagoy Ivanov fight, because that one went 3 rounds. Let's see what they're saying about that. Okay, 52 head strikes landed over 3 rounds. I mean, that's not the best, but it's the best numbers he's ever put up. So okay, let's see what the most head strikes Nascimento's ever landed in a fight. Let's see. Oh, okay, around the same thing. Okay. So maybe I'm not giving Romanov the credit he deserves for his stand-up skills. Now let's check out what the size difference is between these two guys. So both 6'2". Nascimento is just slightly. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage on him, and he's 20 pounds lighter and 2 years younger. I'm gonna go Rodrigo Nascimento here, man. I think that Romanov just hasn't been the same since those stunts he pulled. I think he had a big aura of confidence coming into the UFC undefeated, doing the things he was doing, all those suplexes, and then once he got figured out, he just hasn't looked the same. And Rodrigo Nascimento, he's had his ups and downs, but I feel like he's been more consistent. He's getting better every fight. Just has to be aware of that chin. And if he does that, I think that he wins this fight. But yeah, it's hard to be confident with these two. So, but I will, since I have to give a pick, I'm going to pick Nascimento. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, I think this is one of the best fights on the entire card. We got Serhiy Sidey, he's 10-2, taking on Garrett Armfield, who's 10-4. Currently, they got it Serhiy Sidey minus 140. The comeback on Garrett Armfield is plus 120. I love this fight. I love this fight. Shout out Garrett Armfield. He was on Half the Battle once. We share a birthday, follow each other on Twitter. So, yeah, I've had pleasant interactions with him, and I also enjoy watching him fight. One thing I've noticed about Garrett is he tends to hurt every single person he fights with hands, head kicks, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, Garrett's a very dangerous guy. And Garrett's improving every single fight. Garrett is definitely taking the time to make the necessary adjustments. And I like what I've seen, and a lot of people gave him a lot of heat for that last fight against Brady Heastan. And watching it live, I was on that boat, but when I rewatched it, I kind of don't think he actually pulled a stunt like I initially thought. I think that Brady Heastan's just a monster grappler. Like in the first round, right? Brady had like a locked in rear naked choke, and Garrett showed a lot of heart escaping that. Garrett also had a nice armbar attempt in that fight. And at the time I was thinking like, why are you trying to grapple with this guy? But shit, it presented itself and he went for it. So props to him. And then so here's where people gave him heat. You know, he hurt Brady Heastan badly, like super badly. And he followed up to finish. And people say, why don't you just let him get up? I don't think it's that simple, guys. I think that when you hurt someone as bad as he hurt Brady, and then he jumps in to finish the deal, I think he was convinced 2-3 follow-ups and this guy is gone. I was convinced 2-3 follow-ups and this guy's out of there. And then I think two things happened. Number one, I think that Garrett kind of emptied the clip trying to get that finish there. And then I also think that Brady is super tricky on the mat, whether he's on top or on bottom. He started entangling Brady a little bit, started throwing up some subs, and kind of like we were talking about that Rebecca versus Carlos Diego fight, where in that second round, Rebecca got the easiest takedown of his life, but now you're in this guy's guard, and now he's throwing up sub attempts. Now he's doing the whole bit. It's going to make you tired. And I think a similar thing happened to Garrett there. And in that third round, that rear naked choke, there was no escaping that. So I don't really think it was the stunt I initially thought. And this is a completely different matchup here with Sidey. The thing with Sidey is he's got a lot of range and height for this weight class. You don't usually see guys 5'11" at 135. The examples I can think of are like Peyton Talbot and Sean O'Malley. But obviously this kid, Sidey, is a lot greener than those two. But one thing I will say, so he loses that fight against Ramon Taveras. Let's get into that real quick before I say that he moved camps. So the Ramon Taveras fight. Initially, I picked Sidey to win the fight, and I was going to pass on the bet. But at the weigh-ins, Ramon Taveras comes in and like misses weight by like 4 pounds, looked terrible. I was like, okay, I'm going to take Sidey here. I think Sidey can out-volume him. And Sidey should have won that fight. No, I'm not saying it was a robbery. I'm saying Sidey should have won that fight. He just made a lot of tactical errors. Like round one was a clean win for Sidey. And then in the last 10 seconds of the round, he decides, like, instead of like circling out, hey, you've won this round, let's move on to the next one, he decides to bang in the pocket where Ramon Taveras give him his only chance, and he gets wobbled bad, like bad to where like now that round goes to Taveras. And it's like, you know, you don't have to prove you're a dog every single fight. Like if it comes down to you have to show your heart, okay, great. But like you don't have to show everyone how tough you are. How about the fact that you're a 5'11" bantamweight? Let's keep this guy at length, blast our hard kicks, the combinations, and fight a long rangy fight. Because every time he did that, he did fantastic. It's just he started getting carried away at times, and he took unnecessary damage in that fight, and that cost him. But the good news for Sidey is that it's been a long time since then. He actually got out his comfort zone in Canada and went and trained with some of the best bantamweights in the world, with Sean O'Malley and all of them. I'm not sure if Mario Bautista and whatnot was there, but I know for a fact that he trained with O'Malley and Welch and got out of his comfort zone. So that's good, because like the issues that Sidey had in that Taveras fight, that wasn't an issue about skills, or that was just a maturity thing. That was just he did some green mistakes. And those kind of things can be fixed. Whereas with Armfield, the big criticism I have with Armfield, again, it wasn't about fight IQ. Oh, we should have let him up. I think he thought he had the finish there. I mean, I thought he had the finish there. I think the issue that's plagued Garrett throughout his career, and I'm sure he hates hearing this, so I'm sorry, Garrett, but Garrett's a gasser, okay? Again, I'm not questioning the shape Garrett's in. Like Garrett, I'm sure he runs his miles every day. I'm sure he does everything he needs to do to make sure he's in peak condition when he fights, of course. But certain dudes, I don't know if it's the body type, I don't know, I don't know the science behind it. But certain dudes are more prone to gassing late in fights. You could blame it on the pace of the fight or whatever the case is, but Garrett's one of those dudes. That's just the bottom line. I mean, we could talk about the Katona fight. That third round, man, that third round was getting sketchy. The Heastan fight, I think credit to Heastan, but since it's happened in the past, you have to bring it up here. And then the Mateo Vogel fight, he was whooping on Vogel, and then the same shit happened in that second round. So he has a history of front running in a lot of performances and kind of emptying the clip and then getting finished late. The thing that's different here is that I think they're going to have a striking match, and it's up to Garrett to close the distance. You know, we're talking about 5'6" with Garrett versus 5'11" with Sidey. I think if Sidey fights smart, keeps him on the outside, I think he can get the better of these exchanges. But where you have to be concerned is the first thing I said about Garrett is Garrett hurts the majority of people he fights. So Garrett definitely has a chance to hurt Serhiy Sidey. But I don't expect Garrett to get takedowns here. I don't expect Garrett to out-volume Sidey. And I think he's going to have an issue with the range and the length of Sidey. So for that reason, I love Garrett, you know, fan of his, and I hope to have him back on the show. And not that he'll want to do it after I'm picking against him, but I hope that if he listens to this, he realizes that I was objective, not biased, and I just spoke my truth and my thoughts. And if Garrett wins this fight, I'll be very happy for him, of course. But just when I watch the tape, if Sidey can just show me a little bit more maturity, you know, in these last 10 months or however long it's been, come out here, use that long rangy style. That's a big problem at bantamweight, especially. I think he can have a lot of success picking apart Garrett Armfield, and for that reason, I'm gonna pick him to win this fight. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a match between Chad and Hellinger. He's 13-7, taking on Cody Gibson, who's 20-10. Currently, they got it. Cody Gibson minus 185. The comeback on Chad and Hellinger is plus 160. Yeah, shout out Cody Gibson, man, because you know isn't he the guy that said "Google me, bitch"? Hold on a second. Is he the guy that said that? Yes. Yo, y'all old school fans know exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all noobs got to check out. Go on Google, type in "Google me, bitch" Cody Gibson. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about there. But listen, Cody Gibson, I got respect for him. You know, he's, I think, still either now or a former like school teacher. And I remember when him and Aljo fought back in the day. Aljo was a former school teacher too, so it was teacher versus teacher. Aljo put a whooping on him. Well, it was actually a close fight. I think it was 29-28, but still, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Now, but the way I see these two matching up, man, two grizzled vets. I think Cody Gibson probably has a bit more wear and tear than Hellinger. But here's my thing with Hellinger. I think Hellinger is actually really damn good in terms of like technique and skill. My issue with Hellinger is he's too small. He's way too small. And before I talk about that, another thing I respect about Hellinger is that he had like a terrible record, and then he went on a big win streak and got to the UFC. Like, hey, dude, like, and Hellinger is all balls. So like, just I respect this guy a lot. But the thing about Hellinger, man, is it says he's 5'6". Between you and me, he's 5'4", and it says his reach is 64 inches. You know that's going to be an issue in men's weight classes. So in this spot, he's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage, a 4-inch height advantage. And interestingly enough, and Hellinger is actually the older guy here, which I did not expect, despite Cody having more wear and tear. But statistically speaking, they match up close. Like I said, Hellinger is not bad. The issue with Hellinger is just he's so physically outmatched in all these fights that he gets out hustled. He gets bullied a bit. But like I said, the skills are not bad at all. Like there's a reason he hasn't been finished in the UFC, you know? But all that being said, my man, my friends, not my man, my friends. I know we got some ladies watching this too. Shout out to y'all. But yeah, even though Cody's had his issues with pushing hard early, gassing late in fights, and whatever the case may be, I just think he's a bit too physical for Hellinger. And physicality goes a long way. But this is going to be cool because it's Canadian versus Canadian in Canada. Let's see who the crowd is behind. I mean, you never know. I mean, do any of these judges train at either of these two's gyms? Do any of these judges have a pre-written scorecard yet for either guy? Like, let's see. But I'm gonna go Cody Gibson to get this one done. And not last but not least, penultimate fight. We got Jamie Lynn Horth. She's 6-1, taking on Ivana Petrovic, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it. Jamie Lynn Horth minus 220. The comeback on Ivana Petrovic is plus 185. Yeah, I mean, you guys know what the problem I have with this fight is. The problem I have with this fight is the price. I think that both girls are tough. I think both girls are developing. They're green. They need a lot of work. But the thing about it is, Horth, I think, is more physical, and I think she's more technically sound standing, and I also think she's more assertive, but I also think she's probably like a bit stiffer and slower. Whereas Ivana Petrovic, I'm seeing more fight by fight improvements, but there's a lot of things that need work. She has been taken down in both her UFC fights. So has Jamie Lynn Horth. So has Jamie Lynn Horth. But I think that Horth has more higher level experience. Former LFA champ, beat Lupi Godinez twice on amateurs. I know we shouldn't talk about amateurs. I think, quote Allen Iverson, talking about practice. I know we ain't talking about practice, but this one, like I said, it's a hard one for me to pick. But I think slightly more physicality, slightly more work rate. Hopefully, Canadian judges on our side. I'm gonna go Horth, but the issue is minus 220. Like when you see the state of judging, especially in these women's fights that tend to be 50-50, this is probably a dog or pass situation. So if you're taking the dog, I'm not holding that against you one bit. For me, it's a total pass. I'll pick Horth to get it done. But good luck to y'all that go out there and bet this fight. And then kicking off the card, interesting. First fight of the night, we got Jack Shore. He's 7-2. Taking on Youssef Zalal, who's 15-5-1. Currently, they got it. Youssef minus 250. The comeback on Jack Shore is plus 210. Man, I've loved seeing Youssef Zalal's career resurgence, man. I mean, I don't think he was bad when he came to the UFC the first time by any means, but it's cool to see that this guy went to his regional scene, paid some more dues, comes back, looks a lot more mature, looks a lot more refreshed, looks like this is the guy who's primed to potentially make a run into the rankings at least. And with Jack Shore, here's the unfortunate thing about Jack Shore, because I think Jack Shore is very skilled and everywhere. I think he can strike. I think he can grapple. I think he can do the whole bit. My issue with Jack Shore is he's too big for bantamweight and he's too small for featherweight. So it's like, he's in such a tough situation in that regard, man. Like at featherweight, he's got like a belly and stuff. And again, not everyone physique ain't the be all end all. You can see a guy look like Robe Bellis to Spain looking like the, like the fucking Hulk, and some dude with less physique can grind on him for 3 rounds. I'm just saying, like, muscles don't win fights. But that being said, this guy looks, what's the right word here? It looks like it's, it's not that, I was killing myself to make 35s. Now I'm in my right weight class. It's like, he looks a little fat at featherweight, and we have more than a 2-fight sample size. We have a 2-fight sample size at this point, and those sample size stretched out like over a year. So it's not like, he had the Makwan fight where he won, he comes back like over a year later. Okay, now's the time to put on the size the right way. Now's the time where we might see Jack Shore 2.0 looking completely different, and he's still like pudgy, and maybe he just can't have a 6-pack. Like, certain guys just can't have 6-packs. Like my boy Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill can have the highest output in light heavyweight history and still not have a 6-pack. So physique is not the end all be all. But one thing about Youssef Zalal, interestingly enough, also a former bantamweight, but I feel like he's really matured into this weight class here at featherweight, and he's always had the skills. I mean, he's a dude that took a round off Topuria, which is crazy. He took a round unanimously off Topuria at short notice, whatever. He still did that. But now I think moving up to featherweight is the right move for Youssef Zalal. I mean, granted, give me 1 second. Yeah, exactly. Like he tried to go down to bantamweight when he fought Blackshear, but he realized featherweight's the right division for him. And man, since he's come back, that Billy Q fight, because here's the thing with Zalal. Zalal's not going to pocket exchange with you. Zalal is a mover. Zalal is very elusive, a lot of great footwork, lateral movement, and he gets guys frustrated. He's got good kicks, he can spin, and then guys start to chase him. And then Zalal is good at mixing things up. He can level change, he can get you to the ground. And the fact that he submitted Billy Q, I know Billy Q didn't look his best that fight, but to tap out Billy Q, very impressive. And then the Yarno Aaron's fight. The thing about that is that Yarno Aaron's up until that point had 3 very competitive fights in the UFC, right? And Yusuf just goes out there and blows him out the water like it's no one's business. So I think Yusuf is elevating as we speak. I think that Yusuf is making a lot of progress, and the guy that people wanted him to be in his first UFC run is the guy he is now. So whereas Shore, like again, Shore's skilled everywhere. Shore's a really good fighter, but like Shore is just underwhelming and is in the wrong weight class. Whereas it really seems like Yusuf is on that. You win this, then you're gonna get like a mini legend of the sport to see. Then you'll get that Andre Fili test, that Cub Swan. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like Yusuf wins that, he's gonna get a name that we all know, and I think he does win this. So give me Yusuf Zalal there. Now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Edmonton? My friends, I think the fight to watch is on the prelims. It's a bantamweight matchup between Serhiy Sidey, Canada's own, taking on Garrett Armfield. And these two are going to stand and bang. It's either going to be a 3-round war or someone might hit the deck. Someone might dive headfirst into a guillotine. But both these guys are young, hungry, coming off losses. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to prove themselves. Sidey wants that first UFC win. You know how elusive that first UFC win is. And he's got a lot of physical attributes, a lot of heart, a lot of skill. And Garrett Armfield, like I said, he hurts everyone he fights. I know he's super pissed about how that last fight went down. And I know he wants to bounce back. And what better way for either guy to bounce back than in a live audience in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, with the crowd going crazy, because they will go crazy because Sidey is from Canada and Garrett Armfield fights the way we want to watch people fight. So for that reason, Sidey versus Armfield is my fight to watch. Who is my fighter to watch? I mean, not to be boring, guys, but the fighters to watch are Albazi and Blanchfield. Like, y'all have an opportunity here against 2 legends, 2 former champions in the main and co-main event. You got 5 rounds to work. This is your chance to show, like, are you ready to move up to that upper echelon where, like, now it's only main events. Now it's title eliminators. Now it's, hey, someone drops out, you could get a title shot. You never know with this sport. Like I said, timing is everything. Someone's injured, this and that. Khalil Roundtree gets a title shot. I'm just saying. So for Albazi and Blanchfield, a statement performance here, and it's bright skies for both of them. So for that, and they got tough tests ahead of them. So for that reason, Albazi and Blanchfield are my fighters to watch. Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Shout out to the Ottawa Senators. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think they're rivals of the Oilers or anything like that. But the only other soccer jersey, the only other hockey jersey I have Martin Straka from the Czech Republic national team. Maybe I should have worn that. But I had a feeling for the contest I was doing that more people were going to guess an NHL team, and they did, but they just didn't guess this one. So I'm going to have to do another contest because I love giving back to the fans, giving y'all free autograph memorabilia. Just, it's a little way I can give back for all the support that you guys show me and continue to show me. And, from back in the day to now to the present. And I'm truly grateful. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, share. Big thank you to Meticulous for the graphics, the artwork, the thumbnails, the shorts, the reels, everything you're doing to help me. It's amazing and appreciate it. And again, the fans, I love y'all so much. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, at Half the Battle HQ, on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod, on TikTok, not Tic Tac, on TikTok at Half the Battle Podcast. And it's only Wednesday. Shit, I'll be back later this week. Maybe drop something else for y'all. Like, I got a lot of content ideas planned. And let me know if there's something specific you want to see from me, because as y'all can tell, I'm dropping content every single day. and I want to deliver for the fans. I don't want to do any of the, I don't want to give y'all the same run of the mill bullshit that you're probably sick of. I want to give you what you want. So tell me what you want. To quote Tom Cruise, help me help you. Thank you guys very much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.